Greetings. It is Thursday, May the 14th, in the soon-to-be infamous year of 2026. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian column On the Road, and this is the midweek report. Hey, did you miss me? My video, at least. It's been a time. I've been mostly doing audio. I'm sorry about Monday, but as I said, need a new computer. On the road, sometimes the stars do not align and things couldn't get done the way they needed to. Sorry about that, but there's still plenty going on. And I'm here to fill you in on the way things are going and where they might be going. First off, as I speak, Donald Trump is in China meeting with the Chinese president, who really does look like Winnie the Pooh. Sorry. I don't think that's a bad thing, really. Everybody loved Winnie the Pooh. Let's face it, Chinese presidents, leaders, or whatever, sometimes they're not very lovable. But that being said, it's an interesting trip so far. I believe they're about to have dinner at this time. There was a bit of a dust-up between the Secret Service and Chinese security over who can carry guns into the Temple of Heaven, a fascinating place. I got to visit there some years ago. It was on my bucket list of things to see in the world. Well, the thing that's interesting is Trump's there to talk about a few things, including Iran and Chinese-made weapons that were found going to Iran. I wonder why. Yes, everybody loves to have proxy wars because they can test out how their arms industry is doing. And, well, given the American casualty rate there, I don't think the Chinese stuff is really doing that well. But still, nobody likes to have your largest trading partner trying to get your soldiers killed in a conflict that they really shouldn't be involved in. One good thing that's happened, though, out of that is the Chinese agree that there should not be tolls over the Straits of Hormuz, which is a slap in the face to their so-called ally, the rather demonic Islamic Republic of Iran. And that is getting to be pretty interesting. But anyways, let's see what happens in China. I have a feeling that Chinese practicality, which has driven their civilization for thousands of years, is going to kick in, and I'm hopeful something good will come of it. I mean, after all, what would Americans be doing if they couldn't go to Walmart and buy cheap crap made in that country? But back to the Iran war, which is still the Americans controlling it. And don't believe what you're reading about the Iranians having everything ready to go. And intelligence sources, yes, they love to talk about intelligence sources, are leaking information. Only that happens in two cases. One, somebody wants to lose their job and go to prison to please a journalist of sorts over what? Free drinks? Nah. Or two, it's being done intentionally, maybe to see where leaks are or something like that. But I don't buy it. Journalists, I'm sorry to say, or what passes journalists these days, very often make things up. I've seen it happen. I saw it happen 35 years ago, and I'm sure it's much worse now. Iran has pretty much been pulverized, so one new thing in the world of warfare, where swords and shields are constantly getting better, you can really, really wipe out a country from the air with precision munitions. Not like World War II, which was pretty half-assed compared to what they can do now. No, Iran has its head cut off, and even though this might have started to get rid of their nuclear program, what it effectively is now is getting rid of Islamic Republic. Again, no country on the face of the earth should have those two words next to each other ever again. You cannot negotiate with religious fanatics. You can only destroy them, exterminate them, and that's what needs to be done to that government. We've been at war with them since 1979. Just so much of the American liberal establishment, or the Western liberal establishment, hasn't been intelligent enough or realistic enough to realize it. Not a big fan of Israel. No one is these days except the American administration, but everybody's kind of going on the side of the less insane. Now, something that's just coming out is that the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have attacked Iran. Exactly how is open to debate right now because we don't really have a lot, but those guys were attacked for what reason? What did they do? Well, really nothing, but you're not dealing with a nation in Iran run by sane people, or it was run by insane people. No, they actually hit it up, and one thing that's been leaked is that high-level Israeli officials actually, windy today, high-level Iranian officials actually visited the United Arab Emirates, and possibly the Prime Minister Netanyahu himself back in March. No evidence of that except for tracking done by one of these apps about airplanes. It seems an Israeli airliner of some kind of aircraft did go to the UAE. They're, of course, denying it because of the way politics works in that part of the world, but given a choice of dealing with the Israelis or dealing with the Islamic fundamentalist madmen in Iran with nukes, not much of a contest there. One of the other things that's coming out is the United States is getting weapons to the Iranian people. There were some cases of some of our donations, shall we say, to the population of that country being taken by the Kurds in Iraq. Not unbelievable given the way things go in that part of the world, but there is something called the Eternal Guard, which you're not hearing about in the mainstream media, not really at all, and that has the backing of the Crown Prince, who's hoping to come in and lead a transitional government to something sane. The Iranians are rebelling. That is something that is going on, and there is good information on that. Video coming out. You're not seeing it in the mainstream. Again, don't waste your time with what was once great journalism. It's not there anymore. You got to pick and choose where you find your stuff now. But they are rebelling. Now, whether or not they can pull it off, that's up to them. The Americans are not going to go in. I don't believe they're going to go in and win that war for them. It's up to the Iranian people. And in spite of all the hemming and hawing, and please feel sorry for us that so many of the Iranian diaspora are so good at doing, let me be real blunt. Back in the 1970s, those of us who were around who saw it and were paying attention saw all the Iranian intellectuals in their leisure suits and their liberal ideas try to do everything they can to get rid of the Shah and bring in a much more progressive government. How'd that work for you? Remember, you guys got yourself into this mess to a great extent. It wasn't just Jimmy Carter, cursed be his name, but it was you guys that messed it up. Just like the United States. We're losing it here too, but who do we have to blame but ourselves? Oh, people are blaming, you always blame someone else for your own problems. That's an easy way out, but it's not usually a helpful one or realistic. But the Iranians got themselves into this mess to a great extent, much more than they are willing to admit right now. I would recommend starting to admit it so you don't repeat that horrible, horrible mistake. Back to the United States, speaking of our own fight going on here, it's, as you well know by now, the Supreme Court of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, not a state, a Commonwealth, there's a difference, overturned that rather interesting election of March 21st, where we were going to, April 21st, where we were going to gerrymander, which means to put very creative lines over the electoral districts of what would determine who would go to Congress. It was a real corrupt, messed up situation. The Supreme Court stepped in and said no. And of course, the CIA governess, the CIA isn't really a believer in democracy, they're a believer in subversion. Somebody should have figured that out before seeing her nominated for that job. Well, anyways, they're hoping to bring it to the Supreme Court. One story that was circulating, which has pretty much been shot down, is that there was talk about passing a law forcing early retirement on everybody in the Supreme Court in Virginia. It was something like 55 or something crazy like that. And a lot of these people are in their 60s and 70s. Okay. Well, that's probably not going to happen. I did talk about it with a few contacts in Republican circles and government circles. They think it's not going to happen. But the fact that that was actually floated in some places shows exactly how much the Democratic Party hates the United States, its Constitution, and has no respect for its people or its way of life. They're not the Democrats, they're communists. They really are. They're enemies, bad ones. We'll see how the fight continues here in Virginia, but don't ever underestimate your enemies, especially if they're snakes. That's what the Democratic Party is in the Commonwealth these days. Okay, what else is going on now? UFOs. Oh, everybody loves UFOs. They're a great distraction, aren't they? Oh, well, forget about all the economic problems, the price of gas, taxes, the economy, finding a job, AI, putting people out of business. Let's call up the extraterrestrials. They're always fun. How many people aren't interested in that? Well, they're starting to release the files, and there's all sorts of hemming and hawing. The first batch was totally unremarkable. Yeah, we see jelly beans flying through the air. Who knows what those are? Are they putting any money in my pocket? No. Are ETs here? Possibly. I mean, once we started blowing off nuclear weapons, I'm sure the neighbors got a little upset with that, whatever they are. The fact is that the U.S. government is never going to admit anything that could possibly put it in danger of being legally liable. And so many people's lives have been wiped out because of their obsession with extraterrestrials, with UFOs, with whether or not Roswell was some sort of UFO that landed or crashed or whatever. The U.S. government is scared of nothing except legal liability. So I don't expect you're going to see an ET trouncing out and smoking a cigar, putting his feet up on the desk in the Oval Office, and saying that they're in charge. I don't think you're going to see that, if that even is the case. No. Again, wasting your time over something you have no ability to change and no real knowledge of either. If you saw a big UFO go across the sky, and I've seen weird things in the sky before, I don't know what they are or were, but what are you going to do? I mean, sure, if lasers start hitting the ground and you start running away and they're going to harvest you for food, that's great Hollywood science fiction, but I think it's more of a distraction than anything else. Maybe the Epstein files. How many people have been arrested? All these VIPs that were named, and how many were interrogated? How many were investigated? How many software billionaires who bought up a whole bunch of land in the United States? Oh, how many of those people were called in for questioning? That's what matters. Now, if the extraterrestrials are going to help us hunt down the people that have been exploiting children and doing horrible things to them, I'm all for it, but I have a feeling that they don't care. For one thing is for sure, a lot of people in government don't care about that either. So we'll see what happens, but when I get to see a real body, live or dead, of an ET, I'll be 100% sure, 1,000% sure, but I have a feeling that's going to be a long time coming, if ever. Now, speaking of distractions, you've all heard of Hantavirus, right? Well, that used to just be something that was spread by rats, kind of like bubonic plague in the southwest United States. Got it right. It's been on a ship, and people are talking about it's a new strain. You've heard that before, that can spread from person to person. A lot of rats on ships, just like there's a lot of rats in government. But yeah, they're talking about coming up with a vaccine, talking about all sorts of interesting things that they could be doing. Oh, they're going to lock us up again and drive all our businesses down. Again, 500,000 American businesses were destroyed during COVID. Destroyed. Excuse the airplane going overhead right now. You think that's going to happen again? It probably will. People are not fighting back. What are they doing? They're destroying our children's lives, feeding them to horrible predators. They're We've lost our birthright. This is what I'm going to end you with today. I was in touch with somebody just a couple of days ago, younger man. Talks about how many hours a day he has to work and how many days a week, 6, sometimes 7. And he's paying for a mortgage, has family, has kids, and all those other fun things. And I don't think he's going to do very well in the long term. The amount of work that people are required to do right now would have been considered inhumane only 40 years ago or so when I entered the workplace. Back in the day, if you were a business executive, if you made 5 or 6 phone calls a day and wrote 2 or 3 letters, you'd be out of the office by 5, and that was considered a very productive time. That was before fax machines were a thing. Email didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Computers were just coming out as word processors, effectively, to make more paper. And we lived better. We had better lives, less stress. I think one of the reasons for obesity in this country is not just all the crap they put in the food, like corn syrup. I think it's stress. I think that people don't have time to relax. They don't have time to read books. They'll sit in front of their phone and they'll flip through and look at things that are going to make them more angry than they already are, already should be. We have lost our birthright as Americans. We really have. Look at the homes. Now, Donald Trump, to his credit, is trying to make it illegal for major corporations to go in and buy homes and then rent them out. They're making it so you can't own a home anymore. You can only rent it. And if you lose your job, may the gods help you and your family. And you're going to do everything you can to keep that job because you're going to be frightened of losing your home, losing your family. And AI isn't making anything better. How many people are losing their jobs right now? Where are they going to go? You're making $250,000 a year and then suddenly you're replaced by AI. What are you going to go do? Go work at Walmart for minimum wage? Minimum wage doesn't pay anything. We have lost our birthright as Americans. We really have. And a handful of people, a handful of billionaires, soon to be a trillionaire. Elon Musk is expected to be a trillionaire once Starlink and not just Starlink, but SpaceX goes public. That's more money than any of us could spend in thousands of lifetimes. Now, I'm not a communist or a socialist by that definition at all, but people have been squeezed out of having decent lives. The purpose of government is to ensure the welfare of its people. I don't mean social welfare or handouts. I'm talking about an environment where people can rise to the level that their talent can take them, that people can live decently. People came to North America to settle, to live decently. They couldn't live decently in Europe, so they left. And that was a hell of a decision. Leaving everything behind, knowing you'd never see it again, to come here, to have a chance to get a piece of land and farm it, call it your own. We can't do that anymore. And people are going to continue to sit, watch their videos on their computers, sit on a sofa, eat microwaved food that isn't fit for consumption. We've lost so much, and it's happened slowly. And they're just distracting us. So as I've said before, don't be distracted by things you have no power over. It's interesting to know what's going on in the Middle East because it's going to be affecting the economy. But at this point, people are going to have to really resist, and I mean really resist, or else it's going to be nothing left, including your life. Now, we're past crossing the Rubicon right now. And you can't negotiate and not necessarily vote your way out of it. It's going to take a lot more organization than that. But America, you are really on the ropes right now, and the sad, tragic part is most of you don't realize it. And a lot of you who do don't care. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies. And remember, they are enemies and treat them as such. Show no mercy to enemies. Julius Caesar taught us that. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN, MICCAMPEN. I am up on other social media platforms, but not Facebook. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World, the deep state, and all those who have sold the birthright of the American people must be destroyed. Good day.